When the Germans first encountered the British Mark I tanks during World War I, they were initially shocked, but quickly found a temporary solution to defend against these metal beasts. At first, they improvised in the field with reversed bullets that had added powder, and then the first armor-piercing bullets for infantry rifles were developed. This started a cat-and-mouse game that continues today, with ongoing efforts to improve tank armor and develop weapons to penetrate it. This has led to significant evolution in both tanks and anti-tank weapons over a short period, with no end in sight even today. Each innovation in tanks has driven innovations in anti-tank weapons and vice versa, raising the question, is a modern tanker facing today's efficient anti-tank weapons any safer in their advanced tank than a World War I soldier behind the mere 13 millimeters of armor in their primitive tank, when anti-tank threats were almost non-existent? After the first use of tanks demonstrated their effectiveness on the battlefield, many countries quickly began developing various tank models for different functions, as well as methods to defend against them. Initially, armor was thickened to protect tanks from the first anti-tank rifles, which were deadly to early thin armor. Soon after, anti-tank cannons with larger calibers and more powerful ammunition were developed to penetrate thicker armor, prompting further improvements in tank protection. This cycle continued with innovations in ammunition designed to increase armor penetration, leading to advancements in the materials, angles, and thickness of tank armor to counter these threats. The importance of sloped armor and improved steel materials, which offered greater resistance to projectiles, was quickly realized. Additionally, various simple and cheaply made field weapons emerged that could significantly threaten tanks despite their protections. For example, the Molotov cocktail proved highly effective during World War II against tanks that lacked sealed armor. The flammable liquid would seep through small openings, posing a serious threat to the crew or ammunition. Other methods were also tried. Instead of high-velocity armor-piercing rounds, high-explosive anti-tank technology was developed. These low-velocity rounds used a shaped charge which directed explosive power onto a small surface to penetrate the armor. Sometimes it was enough just to hit an armor plate from the outside and cause spalling, deadly shrapnel peeling off at great speed from inside the tank and injuring the crew. To counter this, spaced armor was developed to protect tankers. During World War II, shaped-charge rocket-propelled weapons like the Panzerfaust and bazooka were used, for the first time giving a single soldier with a handheld weapon a significant chance to seriously threaten a tank. World War II saw the most extensive use of tanks in history and showed their strategic importance, prompting even more intense post-war development of both tanks and anti-tank weapons. The effectiveness of handheld rocket-propelled weapons was quickly recognized, enabling a single soldier to carry a weapon capable of devastating a tank without the need for a bulky, team-operated anti-tank gun. In the 1950s, the Soviet Union introduced the RPG-2, a simple, reloadable, shoulder-fired weapon designed to launch high-explosive anti-tank grenades deadly to the tanks of that era. In response, tanks began incorporating thicker and spaced armor to dissipate the energy of heat rounds before they could reach the main armor. The 1960s saw the introduction of the RPG-7, which became one of the most widely used and effective anti-tank weapons in history. The RPG-7 featured a more powerful warhead and greater range than its predecessor, posing a significant threat even to heavily armored tanks. In response, tanks like the British Chieftain and early models of the American M1 Abrams began using composite armor, which combined materials such as ceramics, metals, and plastics to provide better resistance against both kinetic energy penetrators and heat warheads. Some versions of the Abrams tanks also utilized depleted uranium armor, enhancing their protection and making them more resistant to enemy fire. The 1980s marked another significant advancement in tank protection with the development of explosive reactive armor. ERA tiles contained explosives that would detonate upon impact, disrupting the shaped charge jet from heat warheads and reducing their penetration capability. However, the evolution of RPGs continued, with new models like the RPG-29 featuring tandem warheads designed to defeat ERA by using two explosive charges, the first to trigger the reactive armor and the second to penetrate the main armor. As RPGs and other handheld anti-tank weapons became more sophisticated, tanks responded with further advancements in protection. The M1A1 Abrams and Leopard 2 incorporated advanced composite armor. The 1990s and 2000s saw the development of active protection systems such as the Israeli Trophy and Russian Arena. These systems actively detect and intercept incoming projectiles before they can hit the tank, deploying countermeasures such as projectiles or blasts to neutralize threats in midair. However, all this technology is extremely expensive and still not sufficiently developed to be reliably used on all modern main battle tanks. A simple, yet not always effective solution is RPG cages, simple metal grids, often improvised in the field, which can save a tank by triggering the RPG warhead away from the main armor, significantly reducing its penetrating capabilities. But modern anti-tank systems are no easy task to defend against. There are various extremely powerful anti-tank weapons, most with targeting capabilities, leaving the tank crew with little chance to protect themselves. While the front of the tank is the best protected, the sides, roof, and upper parts are not as well defended since most threats were historically expected from direct line of ground fire. Modern RPG systems exploit this with new attack trajectories from above, targeting the more vulnerable parts of the tank. A notable example is the American FGM-148 Javelin. After launch, it follows a high lofted trajectory, climbing to a high altitude before descending sharply onto the target. Once above the target, the Javelin missile detonates its warhead, creating a high-velocity jet of metal that penetrates the top armor of the tank, causing catastrophic internal damage by igniting ammunition and often killing the crew. In modern conflicts, crews try to protect against these dangers by improvising RPG cages on top of the turret, but it is difficult to defend against such weapons, and when hit, the tank is usually either destroyed, significantly damaged, or some of the crew killed. In addition, various infrared or wire-guided projectiles can be launched from great distances to precisely target a tank, giving the crew little chance to fight back or protect themselves. But what modern conflicts have demonstrated is that no tank, despite its advanced technologies, armor, and protections, is safe. Drones have become a nightmare for all armored vehicles in today's conflicts. They are small, cheap, easy to use, numerous, and extremely effective. There are several types of drones, and the ways they have become a nightmare for tank crews are manifold. Besides providing a direct view of a tank's location and movements, drones can relay coordinates to artillery or even guide heavy 155mm high-explosive artillery shells directly onto tanks where no armor could withstand such a hit. Kamikaze drones are designed to loiter over the battlefield and dive onto targets, detonating on impact and making it hard to escape or destroy them. The major challenge is their numbers. They are numerous, easily produced, and can appear seemingly out of nowhere at any moment, guided by operators from a great distance. There are also small drones equipped with hand grenades, hovering over open hatches of tanks to drop explosives inside, which is sufficient to completely disable the tank. When it comes to concealing your tank today, it is nearly impossible. Unlike in World War II and earlier, where tanks could use terrain, bushes, or branches to blend in with the environment, modern detection systems such as radar, thermal imaging cameras, and infrared sensors have rendered these techniques almost completely ineffective. These devices can easily penetrate visual concealment, detecting the heat signatures of tanks or identifying their metallic structures through foliage and other natural covers. Additionally, improvised explosive devices, anti-tank mines, missiles, and cannons used by gunship aircraft and fighter bombers all pose significant risks to modern tanks and present substantial challenges to defend against. Despite all the modern protections and improvements in tanks, which include various protective systems, superior firepower, and technologies to protect the crew from fire. Being a tanker today is still an incredibly daunting job. Although tanks from World War II are technologically surpassed today and were less protected, tankers of that era did not face such a widespread arsenal of anti-tank weapons, though their battles were extremely close and unforgiving. All in all, being a tanker, in any period from their introduction to today, is far from a safe and comfortable experience,